your mark, the mark that you leave on this earth, on the things that you make. When you give someone your product, it's almost as if you show them a piece of you. And when I look at Billfish, it really is a manifestation of myself and my interests. The color is the way I like it. The design is the way I like it. Like, so much pride and love goes into the thing that it's almost like having your signature on it. And that's why, like, on our products, every hang tag has a signature on it of who worked on the product. What makes us unique is that we demand high performance. Our stuff we put out is amazing. And that's an infectious culture.
You're listening to the Rising Tidecast, the podcast for sharing the stories, the lessons, and all the good stuff from legends in the marine industry. Welcome to another episode of the Rising Tidecast. I'm Steve from Rising Tide Film, and today we get to hear from Leo Chapman, who's the founder of Billfish Gear. Billfish Gear, if you don't know about them, is the leading brand in high-quality fishing apparel. They're equally comfortable, functional, and good-looking. Leo, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get on.
Very timely to have you on as well. I've just received my first order of custom gear from Billfish. I've been waiting for a long time to do it, actually feeling the shirts, and they're just amazing. It's like Lululemon for fishing gear. Yeah, the most comfortable shirts I own, and even better, I think, because you can customize them and brand them. So easy to understand why you're gaining so much traction in the market and becoming a staple for so many fishermen. And I think in particular, sport fish programs, right? That's what it's all about for you guys.
You'd be surprised. We've done a project recently for 4 seasons in Mexico. Who would have thought, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we got another order going to Egypt and then 3 boats to Kuwait. So it's all over. Yeah.
Quality speaks for itself then. Doesn't matter what the industry is. People find the good stuff. Well, take me back to the beginning. Like, what got you into fishing in the first place? Because that's a large part of, I think, why you started this, obviously, with the name Billfish. Did you always fish, or did the passion come later in life for you?
I started super early. My grandfather was a huge boating enthusiast. Like, he's basically like a larger-than-life character type of guy that started from nothing, built everything up. And he would always say that buying a boat is the best investment one could make because it keeps the family together. So he wasn't necessarily a fisherman type of person. He was more of a boating enthusiast guy. Someone likes to tinker in the engine room, likes a good, diesel engine, that type of mechanic type of guy, like an old school engineer. That was the mindset. And my youth was always just being on the boat with the entire family. And it was my cousin and my cousin's best friend and his girlfriend and just the entire wolf pack of people that just all religiously every weekend we would just go on the boat together. And that was my childhood. And obviously that was my mom's childhood as well. And when my mom got married to my dad, obviously the first thing my grandfather told my dad is, you have to buy a boat. So my dad pretty much didn't have a choice, bought a boat before he bought a house. So bought a 21-foot contender, which is all-time best center console on 25 feet, in my opinion. And I grew up fishing on that and my grandfather's 54 Bertram, which we still have. So I had a upbringing of being around boats. And then through that, my uncle, he was into sport fishing and I got it through him. So I always was fascinated with boats, but I was very much fascinated with the idea of sport fishing, the competitive aspect of it. I loved. Back when I started, circle fishing just became a thing, and you would pull dredges, and it was all numbers based, in a lot of the tournaments that we fish. It's light tackle, numbers based, and it was super, super intriguing, and I just got obsessed with it. And that's how I kind of got into this whole thing. I learned to walk in a 46-foot Bertram.
My wife learned to walk on a boat as well. She grew up on a boat in far, far north Queensland in Australia. And we always joke she walks a little bit in a circle or side to side a bit too much.
There we go. There we go. Exactly.
I love that it was just in your veins kind of from the beginning. And it's great your dad bought the boat before the house. Very rare.
Yeah, it's funny, huh? Yeah.
It shows the dedication. Yeah. And then professionally, so you're super into sport fishing and boats. And then professionally, what were you doing before you decided to start Billfish Gear?
Student, nothing, because I was just so young. I started really young. People think it goes overnight. It takes 10 years to have an overnight success is what. It is true. I mean, I started this whole thing when I was around 17, 18, right? I'm 10 years later now, but that's when it really started, right? And I didn't have any investors or banks or parents wanted to give me any money. So it takes longer. You can't just kind of hyper put in capital and scale. You just have to go one step at a time. I just conceived it from nothing.
So tell me what the first thing, like how Billfish was born.
The idea behind Billfish started for a couple of reasons. One, social media was starting to build up, and there wasn't really a news source to go to. And it started as an Instagram page. I think it was called something like Angler's Journal. And it was a media source, right? And we just started posting videos of sport fishing. And I happen to have know a lot about it because I grew up in that world, right? So I would know, hey, Los Sueños, the bite's going off, or hey, I don't know, out of Cairns. I would know because I would follow the world. It's a small world, right? So I would post about it, a new boat that just launched. And back then, nobody was posting anything about it. Right now, I mean, everyone is posting about the new Viking. You know what I mean? That's crazy. But back then, there wasn't that, right? So I was one of the first to do that, and we started to grow very quickly. So it was that. Plus, you had a few guys that were doing basically the beginnings of a sport fishing page. It was a few of them. It was Follow Me. These guys are so old that they don't even have boats anymore. Like they're out of the game. That's how old they were. For context, they had a 70 Viking enclosed bridge. Then they bought a 90-foot Viking when it first came out. It was called Follow Me Sport Fishing. They were one of the first. You had them. You had Fish Tank. They're still around, still big, doing the thing. Yeah, they were really the boat pages, right? Then you had Billfish. Then we switched the name to Billfish Movement, and then I switched it to Billfish Inc., and now it's Billfish Group. It goes back to what I was saying, right? The overnight success thing. Like people are obsessed, like, what am I going to call my business? Just start. Change your name 4 times anyway. I mean, that's kind of how the whole thing started, and I scaled it from no following whatsoever to around 70,000 followers before we ever had a product. And that took around 2-3 years. And that was no ads, nothing, just organic, me and my thumbs, posting. And it was a great time. And I even remember one day I walked outside to the porch and I was talking to my dad about it. And obviously, it doesn't mean anything. And my dad was like, you never know. It could maybe turn into something. And I'm like, all right. And I remember it clear as day.
That's awesome. And what's the conversation like with your dad now?
It's not a conversation where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it, right? Because it's kind of like seeing a puppy grow. Like you see it every day, right? So it's baby steps. But obviously, it's insane. It's insane, right?
You'd be super proud. That's awesome. Tell me then, so starting out as the media company on social and growing it like that, and then when did you add products to the mix?
I remember one time, funny story. We did an advertorial for Garmin. They paid me $350 for like 10 posts at $35 each. And it was the coolest thing ever. It was making money, right? I'm like, what is this cool thing, right? I remember I had a couple of people reach out to me and about it. And I was like, no. But then Garmin did. And I love Garmin because you're using their binoculars. They have like these binoculars called 7x50. And we were using them on the boat and I loved them. So I was like, yeah, Garmin's cool. And then we did Garmin. Anyway, so that was like the first advertising thing we did. But the first product we really did was a sticker. It was a I am with a Billfish logo on it. It was a USA flag colored sticker. And we drop shipped that. And the reason why I was drop shipping that is because I was studying abroad in Europe. And that made things very complicated because obviously all the customers were in the United States, but how can I ship stuff from there? It doesn't work, right? So the drop shipping, which means that the customer would go on a link to a website called billfish.com, whatever, and they would buy it and it would get shipped from a sticker factory in the United States straight to them, and I would get the sale, right? I did that, and remember we did that, and I think we did like $400 in a weekend, and it was the coolest thing ever. Came to university, chest in the air, I'm the man, because we sold stickers, and that was the first product. Did that for maybe like a few months, yeah.
So then sticker went really well. And then when did you, or why did you decide, let's add apparel to the mix? Like, what was it that you saw? Was there a moment where you were like, wait a minute, I think we should do, or the market is missing this?
So again, I was living abroad, so you have a huge shipping issue because you can't ship stuff abroad. I can't just go buy inventory because I can't pay for a warehouse because student broke. You can't pay for a warehouse. You can't have payroll. What are you going to do? So I was dead in the water selling stickers, right? Then one time I was on vacation with my family and we went to Sailfish Marina. And I had this meeting, which in hindsight is pretty crazy because I was like 18. So my dad had to I think my dad, because I wasn't allowed to have a driver's license back then. because I had a foreign license. I was living in Europe. Anyway, I couldn't drive in the United States back then. So my dad had to drop me off at Silver Spring for a meeting, which is insane to think about in hindsight. Like who would drop their kid off for a meeting? Anyway, point is, he dropped me off for a meeting there. And I had a meeting with Chris Alvarez, who ran a page called, still exists, Billfish Republic, and he made spears. And I was talking to Chris, and he was talking to me about all these things. You were exchanging social media conversations about hashtags and this and that, early days. And then as I was leaving, I never forget it. He asked me, hey, is there something that you need help with? And don't ask me why. Something came into my head, and I was like, I just got the idea, like, well, if you could ship out my products and hold inventory, I'll promote your spearfishing accessories for free. And that's how we got into business. So that's when I was able to buy a hat, store it in the United States, and ship it locally with USPS. So we started with hats first before apparel. I remember ordering 200 hats through a guy that I knew who knew a factory, sketchy stuff, and shipped it there. And then we released the hats to it, shipped for me for free every Friday now, and I would post his gaffs. And that's how we got into business. Keep in mind, I was buying the shipping labels off of ShipStation, which connects to USPS with my 1,000 euro student credit card. Huh? How crazy is that? Right? And it was funny because, I had a 1,000 euro limit. And obviously, when you're small, that's fine. But I remember Black Friday came by and I hit the limit in the shipping label costs. And I was like, Dad, can I please use your credit card to buy a few shipping labels? And he was like, all right, fine. And then I was able to use his credit card. So that was like the only help I got, but which was a huge help back then because obviously what I'm going to go to the bank and be like, hey, can you raise my student credit card? Not going to happen. So that's how that came about. And then while doing that with that spare bedroom, using as my inventory, we did apparel, the first set of shirts, which was awful. I remember we had a product error with the shirts that they were like 5 inches too long in sleeve length. And it was just going way over your wrist, and we had to just stop selling them. It was a disaster. Yeah, it was a whole thing. And it was crazy too because he wasn't paid. He wasn't working for me because I couldn't pay him. We just helped each other. It was an exchange. And I'll call him, every week and be like, well, how's it going, man? Are you going to ship this Friday? Because if he's on vacation, then
it's not
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's not going out. There's no hierarchy. There's no checks and balances. So yeah, if he doesn't want to ship, then tough luck, It was a very wild time, but it was just for fun, and you just enjoy it, and you kind of see where life takes you, and you treat people well along the way, right? That's kind of the key to it, because that's when you get burned, right? I was lucky that we'll go more in the story, but a lot of people helped me over along the years, but you got to treat them well, and that energy gets reciprocated, right? But Chris is godsend. Thank God for him, right? He helped me so much. But equally as much, he could have just burned the hats or sold them on eBay, and is what it is. Crazy story. My domain, I used to have the domain billfish.site, and I got an email again as a 21-year-old from a guy called Patrick Durso. He goes, hey man, I own the trademark for Billfish gear. You're using it. I saw your product in a store in Palm Beach. Please call me. If not, I will have my lawyers contact you and we will press charges. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in university. I am tripping. I am panicking. I call him, I'm like, dude, I'm 21. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to infringe on your stuff. Please don't sue me. All that stuff. And he ended up talking to him, and guy was super nice and loved what I did. And he told me, hey, Leo, one time someone helped me when I was younger with some real estate thing or whatever. And he's like, I'm going to help you. I own the domain billfishgear.com. I'll give it to you for free, or pay me something small, and I'll pay him $200 for it, and it's yours. Don't worry about it. And yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. What a flip from from racing out. Well, it just goes to show, I guess, that energy comes around. I think that's the great part about growing a business and, entrepreneurship and doing something that you love, is that people see that passion in you and they want to help, right? And especially if you're a great person, then, it just only compounds on itself. And I think our whole journey is built up of those little moments, big help, small help from lots of people. And it's really hard to do it on your own. And so many good people in this industry, and so great to find people that want you to succeed as much as you do and help you do that. So, like, you weren't into apparel before then or anything, which is crazy because, I mean, just knowing what you guys do and what you put out now and the quality of it, I think it's awesome. And I want to ask too, because it's funny, he had a Billfish in his company name as well. Why did you choose the name? I mean, they are majestical species.
The logo had a billfish on it, you know? That's the one thing I got right. It's the one thing I got right since day one was the logo. We made one decision that was a good one. We got a really strong logo. And that's just part one. There's a whole other part of the story. I don't know how deep you want me to go into it, but
I think the more that we can tell our story, like the crazy things that happen by chance or setbacks that we learn from and stuff, like I want to hear all of it. But I think the one thing that I always look for is like, what are those little moments that like you almost gave up, but you didn't, or those setbacks that you learn from, or the moment where you were like, wow, this is actually something that's way bigger than I thought it was going to be, or we're getting closer to that. But I think those moments are awesome.
so Chris was the first miracle, right? Then came miracle number two, because after 2 years, I think didn't really want to ship anymore, which I completely understand because, I mean, you know, if you ship for free, you don't get paid. I mean, I
It's a
get it,
lot of hard
right?
labor for exposure. Yeah, yeah.
I completely get it, right? So what happened then was shipments happened less frequently. I got in touch with a guy called John Allen. He's my second miracle. And John Allen was a big fan of the brand, you know, loved media, photography, and all that. We were chatting a lot through Instagram, but I never met him personally. And I just reached out to him because, you know, it goes very simply. Like, nobody can ship for you anymore. So if you go find someone else, what do? You go through your list of followers and you just see if a name pops up, and his pops up. And so I reached out to him like, hey, John, how's it going? I know you love the brand. Hey, we're kind of in a tough pickle here. We need someone to help us ship. You know, what's your routine look like? Because something that you could maybe accommodate. We can't really pay you, but, you know, you can be part of it, and, you know, hopefully it goes well. And he was like, yeah, cool, man, let's do it. And John Allen, who I've never met, drove from Palm Beach down to Miami, picked up all the inventory from Chris's house, brought it to his mom's house in Okeechobee, Florida, which is about an hour from Riviera Beach where he lived. And he would store all the inventory at his mom's spare bedroom. And John would ship for free every Wednesday. You would get some hats and stuff, but I mean, it was basically for free. That was it. It was a huge gallon, and I knew nothing about him. And it went great. Same thing, buying labels, emailing him, bought our own label printer, like a Dymo label printer, a small thing. Then I go to Costa Rica to fish on my family's boat, and I invite John Allen. He comes and fishes with us, which is very cool. So we have to meet each other, and we bonded, and we happened to have won that year in Costa Rica as well, which is a very cool thing because it legitimizes the brand because we were all wearing it, and we were next to the best teams in the entire world, and we were Marlin Magazine, this and that, right? So we won third place in like 3, and it was a big moment. And we won with John Allen on the boat. How cool is that, right? And he thought it was the coolest thing ever. So it worked. And thankfully, he was a really nice guy. It all worked out. And I flew up to hang out with him a few times as well. And we're still really good friends to date. Then the third thing happened, which was at some point, he did want to ship stuff, but he had to use that spare bedroom. So I had to then do something. Then there was this other guy in Maryland called Nick Ide. And he then did the same thing. And he was a big fan of the brand, similar story. And he took over shipping, and he helped me out with shipping stuff and played a crucial brand, like kind of helping build the company up. And then we went to our first storage unit in Hampstead. Then we got the first office. And that's really how I got. So I went through 3 spare bedrooms of people helping out, you know?
I think sometimes you need that as a small business that's got a big idea and big ambitions, but you're just not able to pay people yet. Yeah, I'm curious, what is it about those guys you think that drew them to Billfish and helping you grow?
I think innately everyone wants to be part of something cool, something great, right? And I think that what they saw was the possibility of the brand. They like what the brand stood for, and their values align with the values of the brand. And they loved that we were trying to make it big, you know, and we were on a high growth rate, and they loved that. And besides that too, I mean, it's how cool is it, you know? Like, I remember there's some perks involved. Like, for example, again, by no means is it to be called compensation, but I remember, for example, one time John Allen went to a charity event that we sponsored hats for, which is super cool. Or, you know, fishing in Costa Rica, pretty cool experience. I mean, you just get involved with fishing and in that world, right? And it's an amazing world, as you know. There's nothing like it. Like the world of sport fishing is so unique, and that everyone wants to be in it, right? And if you're associated with Billfish, it's a cool thing to be associated with. So I think it's a little bit of that, a little bit of just helping someone else, and a little bit of just combination. I can't really answer for them. You have to ask them, to be honest. But all of these guys were really, really great people and believed in the art of being part of building something. And I think that's the most important thing, honestly.
And from seeing like your growth over the last couple of years when I found you and the community that you've built, like continually through social media and how you share the different programs, designs and gear and stuff, I think building that from the outside looks like a large key to a lot of the growth, not only because somebody, it's cool, which you said, and it functions well, it looks good, it feels good, but also they get to be part of something that's bigger within an industry and doing a passion that they love, right? And you get to help them do that, which is really cool. So at this part of the journey that you're at now in the business, like how does that same mindset, is that still a thing with people that come and work with you?
For sure, it's still there. I think what people love is people hate to have jobs where they just kind of sit around and do nothing. I think innately we all want to contribute. We all want to be doing our best, and we all want to be pushed, and we all want to be valued and contribute, right? And I think even today, because by no means are we Nike, we cannot pay as much as Nike does. So there is still that aspect there of, yes, there's payroll, yes, there's machinery, yes, there's these fancy stuff, but by no means in comparison can we compete with those guys in terms of compensation, bonuses, and all that nonsense, right? We cannot, right? But more importantly, what makes us unique is that we demand high performance. Our stuff we put out is amazing. And that's an infectious culture. People want to be part of it. And there's a lot of creativity going on in our company. So if you look at our company, like we create a lot. We're always inventing stuff. We invented the custom gear program 3 years ago. We now have our own print house with our own machinery, which we call it invented or started, right? We are now getting into wholesales that we're starting at right now. We have our own design team now, which got literally created from scratch by Brandon, who manages it now. So a lot of creation, right? A lot of getting people on board, teaching them things. And that's it. Even right now, like we have our own podcast. There's 3 podcast hosts. They're also creating the podcast, helping build it up. That is something that I love about just the American culture is people want to create and contribute things. They're not lazy. They don't want to be on, in public housing. No. They want to be part of something and they want to advance themselves. But as a group, they want to be involved with creating things as well. And I think that is the key thing. And that's very strong within our brand. We don't have, HR or like bylaws or like, culture, how we just do whatever, you know what I mean? And it's all freedom and it's a little bit of hectic sometimes. And takes some getting used to. It's very, gun ho, but it allows for a lot of autonomy for everyone in the company. And that gives them responsibility, right? But you'll notice that if you believe in people and you trust them with responsibility, they will take it very far. And it's just up to you to be able to kind of see if someone has the potential or not. But in my experience, most people do have the potential. It's just when you it's like there's this famous saying, right? Take someone from a poor background, put them in a family of doctors, and they'll become a whiz kid. It's kind of like that. We can take someone who's not super driven, put them in our company, and like all of a sudden they either start going or they quit because they don't like it, right? It's one of the two. But we have that very strong where like the people in our company, we're all, full speed ahead. And if you don't get on board, you're either quit yourself or you just get on the same speed. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And that has always been present since the beginning. Because one of the things that we did since the beginning that really helped the brand grow, was we looked very professional. Even when we were small in just a bedroom, our website was very beautiful. Like the imagery was really great because I love photography, videography. So that was always on point. So everything looked aesthetically very professional. So therefore, we always acted in that manner as well.
Yeah, I think it does. Everything runs through that like high quality, super professional look. And yeah, I know we've talked about content in the past before and how much you love it and the fact that you've done a lot of the content yourself that you guys
Oh
promote, which
yeah.
I think is awesome.
Yeah, I did all the video editing, all the photo editing. Even to date, I do most of the photo editing because I have a certain look that I like, right? But
What do you value about like good content? Like what role do you think it plays in the whole brand growth of Billfish in particular?
so I think perception is reality in a way. It's a few things. I wouldn't say it's necessarily content, it's customer experience. And Steve Jobs has this famous quote, and it says that when you have a product, there's a lot of one can put a lot of pride in having their own product because when you give someone your product, it's almost as if you show them a piece of you, right? And when I look at Billfish, it really is a manifestation of myself and my interests, right? Like the color is the way I like it. The design is the way I like it. Like so much pride and love goes into the thing that it's almost like having your signature on it. And he had this famous quote as well. You still see on our products. It says, "A real artist signs their work." And that's why, like on our products, every hang tag has a signature on it of who worked on the product. And they have it too. It's designed in California by Apple. Your mark, the mark that you leave on this earth, on the things that you make, right? So if you make a video, that is your standard. That is what Stephen Govel stands for, right? And the question is, if you want to look at it back 10 years from now, is that a good thing or not? Is it, oh, did he
Hmm.
cut a corner or did he do it?
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. And I personally think that I would love for everything that I ever touched to be, wow, that was amazing. Content is the first place of interaction with the brand. So going full circle, that is why I think content is important. Is content is the first interaction someone has with a brand or a business. And if your content's terrible, if you sell boats, right, and your boats are terrible, how can your boats ever be good? Impossible. If our images are terrible, how can our products ever be good? It's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's kind of my perception on content. Besides the fact that I just love it, right? The thought process behind it is, it's like I said, like everything has to be perfect. And it starts with content because that's the first interaction one has usually with a company or a creator.
Yeah. And I think the important part there that you said is it aligns with your values as a person and as a company because, yeah, content is just another way for you to express what you guys believe in and what you value. So you're definitely at the top there. And speaking of the high quality content and high quality everything that you guys do, I'm really curious about how you came up and how you found like this material, right? Because I know that journey from people that I've heard, like apparel, fishing apparel, super competitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy
Yeah,
competitive.
yeah, it's very difficult.
And you guys have something that's like super unique and it's instantly recognizable, right? So I'm curious what that journey was like for you and what were you looking for? And because I mean, I know that's definitely probably a deep, long story, but if you could go through and like take us through some of those iterations or how you found the company that you work with and what you do about it now to kind of maintain that.
So we used to have a factory in Pakistan, and I found a factory because they emailed me, and even now I get like 5 emails a day from factories wanting to do business with us. But back then I used to get the same. I would get cold emails from factories, and I happened to talk to one, and there was a guy in Pakistan, and so I worked with him for a long time. We launched a custom gear program with them, but the fabrics weren't where they need to be, and there were a lot of quality control issues. And it got really bad at some point where a lot of our products had stains on them. It was a total disaster. And I knew we needed to get a new factory, but I didn't even know how to go. I got referred to a guy called Simon, and he used to own two factories. And so he came on board as a consultant. And he helped us find our current factories, right? And that helped a lot. And that was, again, lucky, kind of a miracle. Got referred to him, super smart guy, amazing, inspiring guy. And he joined the company with the mission of finding a factory. We did that. It took us a long time, at least a year and a half, honestly, to find a really good factory. And once we found that, I mean, it got a lot easier because it was a really great factory and they really know their stuff. And we knew what we wanted. We knew what we were kind of looking for. And we knew we wanted to be high end because the middle is where you're going to die, right? I feel like in life in general, like you could either win by being the cheapest or the best and the most expensive. right? The middle is where you go to die because it's a race to the bottom and you just compete your margins away, right? But if you're really good, sky's the limit. And that's what always was the idea. Because when you look at the other brands, like you have like Pelagic, Aftco, it's all same thing, similar stuff, nothing great, right? Like it's different low Columbia, Avids, all same stuff, nothing wow. It's all kind of distant cousins from each other, right? So you wanted to be a step above that and be quite a bit above that. I think we succeeded. And there's not much competition there. So like I said, like you said, like there's a lot of competition apparel. Yeah, there is, but in lower grade. When you go in higher grade fabrics and stuff, all of a sudden there's not much competition because it's difficult. It's difficult and it takes a lot of time to make stuff yourself. All our fabrics are custom made by us. So like you can't just go and source the same fabric. It is literally made for us, knitted for us, and only to us. And that gives us IP, that gives us this brand, that gives us a monopoly on those fabrics, right? And that is how we did it. It was a ballsy move, I will say, because we weren't a big brand. So, it is quite a risk to go and make more expensive garments. But we knew that was the route we wanted to take, right? And even now, we have probably one of the most expensive shirts the fishing in the market. It's $100 for a hooded long sleeve. There's a built-in face mask that clips to the hood and the sungas cleaner. How cool is that? You know what I mean? So I remember when we first introduced it, I was like, oh, man, $100 for a shirt. Tough one, one of the top sellers. Everyone loves them. I learned this a few years back. I bought a very expensive boot, $900. And I am a very frugal person, so I do not like to spend money on things I don't need. I bought a $900 pair of boots, and I loved them. I still love them today. And I learned that you can't put a price on love. You can't put a price on love. So I just figured, okay, well, let's make something people will love, right? And I've learned that if you can make something that someone loves, you can charge whatever it is that you want. Because if you're going to love it, and that's very easy to justify. Because you can tell someone, for example, if someone wants to do custom gear and they're like, yeah, it's like expensive. Like, all right, well, you can go do it with custom Captain or whoever. You're going to hate it and you want to throw it away and it's going to start peeling and it's going to suck, right? Good luck. Or you can pay $10 more per shirt and love it and use it for years to come. You choose. And when you look at it like that, it's a simple equation. And besides that, again, like I said, I bought a car recently and I love the thing. And every morning I drive it. I love it. I literally every morning I'm like, this thing is awesome. And I just think back and I think, if I paid $10,000 more, who would have cared? Because it was like a year ago. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter anymore, right? Because you love it so much. So that is kind of how I see pricing and quality.
And I love that journey too, because that's synonymous with a lot of parts of your business, right? The people that work with you and they believe in what you do. But, I think another thing that besides like having a really great product, the love also gets stronger because you can customize it. So it's like actually yours. So you love it, but you love it for also not only the fabric and how great it is, but the fact that it's got your own stamp on it. And plus, you get your own Billfish logo on it.
That was the idea behind the custom gear program, right? Because you were having such a good time creating our own shirts, designing things. And we were like, well, what if we give our customers the ability to do that too, right? And that's how that went down. That and the fact that when I was 12, like I said, I had my grandfather's boat, right, at Bertram. I was tasked with making shirts for the boat as a 12-year-old. I had a terrible experience. They're still in business today, so I won't say who it was. But it's a funny story that same company reached out to us wanting to buy our stuff blank. How crazy is that, huh? Same person who I spoke with as a 12-year-old. Crazy. So, obviously I was like, okay, now we're going to get revenge. And we're going to create the best custom gear program ever.
That's the motivation right there.
Yeah, it's like a person, like Michael Jordan's documentary,
I love that. So now, like what percentage of your orders and customers are like custom shirts versus like they're just buying the Billfish logo on there?
50-50.
Tell us how that, like what you do as far as the custom design, because I think it's really cool. Like a lot of people, obviously the sport fish programs or the boats, they'll get their own designs done. Like I was a little different because I don't have a boat, but got my brother to design something for the business. But tell us a little bit about that design program you offer.
We have a team now of skilled designers, just crazy thing because we never had like a team. We just have freelancers. Now we have a team that are on payroll, on staff, and they are just so amazing at creating designs of boats. We've done so many. Think of every Viking model, every container model, every CV model, every Valhalla model, like a whole bunch of them, right? And they take an image and they make a design out of it in 72 hours. And just a standard 2D line drawing. But we've done 3D graphics of big Viking sport fishing boats. We've done custom business logos. We've done transom logos. I mean, we have our own design division, honestly. Like our design revenue is huge. I mean, huge. Just our design department, not a single apparel or hat sold, right? Because people come to us wanting cool designs, and our team is very capable. And what they'll do is they'll make their boat, love it, and then want to do a logo for their company. You know, we've done logos for media companies, we've done logos for construction companies, we've done all sorts of logos, nothing to do with fishing at all, right? But like I said, going back to the creativity aspect, it's a big part of who we are. And we take a lot of pride in that. And our customers sense it. Like we will add release flags to the outrigger, we'll remove outriggers, we'll add an anchor on the bow. We get really creative with it. And customers love it because they get to be creative too without having to actually draw or open Photoshop. We do that for them, right? So they love the process. And it's a really, really cool process because you can literally make it as you see fit. And then we take care of the printing as well. We recently purchased our own machinery. We have multiple machines now that do our own high-tech printing, and that doesn't peel, lasts, right? All that stuff. And we did it all in-house. So we have quick turnaround times as well, right? So yeah, long way from that one spare bedroom from Chris Alvarez's house.
I'd say so. And, you know, it all revolves around the community that you built, I think, too. Like, you know, now you're dealing with just from the public eye, like, you know, huge programs like Bag Company, you know, I know uses your stuff, and it's super awesome to see that. You talk a lot about, too, about the Billfish lifestyle on your website. And what does that mean to you and your customers?
I would say the Billfish lifestyle truly is a lifestyle of obviously being on the water and chasing fish, but also traveling. That's something that's been more apparent lately, is that a lot of our customers and myself as well, I just came back from Venice, Louisiana. There's this part of sport fishing which people don't talk too much about. So when you think about it, the art of chasing a billfish is an adventurous thing. You go out fishing, the odds of catching one is low. Most people have never even heard of it. They've seen a marlin, but that's it. They never even think of catching one, and you have to go look for one. The odds of catching one is low. And then you finally see one, and then you have to hook it, which is hard, and then go catch it and release it. So it's almost, there's like a adventurous part to it. So that's a big part of it. There's a travel thing, like I said. A lot of sport fishing teams right now travel a lot because what's cooler than catching billfish in your background? Traveling somewhere else and catching a billfish in someone else's background and knowing something else, right? So like you'll see a Bag Company and Cape Verde and the Azores and this and that. But anyways, you have that. You have Cabo Mexico. You have Los Sueños. And one of the coolest things you can do is actually take your boat somewhere that's not home port, fish out of there, and then catch a billfish there. And you get to see, you know, all these different types of water and, you know, current and, you know, wildlife and culture and food and all of that, right? So I think a lot of it, the real true billfish lifestyle is not just local, it's traveling and embodying it. And when you go on Puerto Rico, getting on a charter. I mean, I can't tell you how many people go, everywhere they go, they charter a boat, right? That's the go-to because it's so cool. I mean, I fished out of Puerto Rico, awesome place. I fished out of Oregon Inlet, nothing like it. I fished out of Los Sueños, nothing like it. I fished Mac Bay where you anchor up for 3 days, nothing like it, right? And every single place is special in its own way. And I feel like there's a lot of life to be lived if you approach your life traveling in search of billfish. But as a side thing, you get culture, you get food, you get new drinks and alcohol and wine or whatever, and you meet these interesting people, right? Like, so cool. Like, I'll give you an example. I went to Venice, Louisiana 2 weeks back. First time it's ever happened to me. I ordered a Coca-Cola at the bar, and the lady was like, "Don't worry about it." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Yeah, don't worry about paying. It's fine. It's a small town. It's okay." Never happened to me before. I thought that was very cool. I could tell people about it. I learned about oil rigs because in Venice, Louisiana, you fish oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. Never did that before. Apparently, there's a drill ship and there's a oil rig pumper, two different things. I didn't know that. There's a lot of things you learn, right? And just in search of billfish, right? So there's a lot of traveling involved with it. And I think that is very much underrated, but it's starting to become more popular now that you have programs coming up like Bad Company and fishing in all these remote places is becoming a thing. But I mean, if you look at where you guys are at, I mean, how cool is it to fish Great Barrier? I've never done it before, but that must be
Yeah.
so cool. But I can tell you right now, I'm not going to Australia to go see Sydney. I'm going there to go catch a black marlin, right? But guess
Yep.
what? I might go see Sydney because of it. I could go see the
Yeah.
opera thing. I like fishing, and yeah, but that's the whole point, right? Like the places that the pursuit of a billfish take you is very unique, and I think that's very cool. So that I would say is the billfish lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of curiosity and pursuit of the next fish, I guess.
I love that. And you're all over the world too. So there's no shortage of places to travel to see your gear and be part of the community, right?
The coolest thing ever is going to the random places. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I remember going to Costa Rica and you see someone, or you go to Miami, you see someone at the airport wearing the gear, or I get an email from a guy in Mexico saying, "Hey, I just saw your shirt down here," or because right now we've gotten to a point where we're very global, right? Like I said, we have a client in Egypt now. We send a bunch of shirts over to the guys from Maverick and Viper and Short Marine, of course. I've never been to Australia. You know what I mean? How cool would it be like to have people rock the gear in Australia? You have Los Sueños, Costa Rica, you have Mexico, you have, of course, the United States. I had a guy text me the other day in Montauk. I've never been in Montauk, but apparently everyone in Montauk is wearing the gear. How super cool, of course, right? And personally, for me, what I find so cool is that you leave your mark a little bit everywhere, right? And so it's stuff like that, that really go mean a lot to me personally. You see a little creation kind of spread around.
When one of your programs wins a tournament or they get some media made or, they come up and they are wearing your gear, what's that like for you? Like, what's that feeling you get when you get to see that?
I mean, it's so cool. I had a guy email me literally 2 hours ago in Puerto Rico. They won some tournament, with the custom gear and everything. I mean, it never gets old. It is so cool. The meeting in person thing is cooler though. I will say something I really like about it too is that I'm a pretty behind the scenes guy. I started doing podcasts only recently, so people don't really know about me, which I love. So like I'll be in Ocean City, Maryland, and I remember I was there for the White Marlin Open, and on my way to the bathroom, I saw three people wearing the gear, and they had no idea who I am, which I love because I like just being under the radar. But that's the coolest thing. And yeah, obviously seeing the guys wearing the gear is so, so awesome. I mean, that just never, ever gets old.
With Billfish, like you always seem to be coming out with some new gear or like a different style of gear. What does that process look like for you guys? It's like iterating what you offer and new products and stuff. How do you do it and what's the vision for it?
So Esther, who works with us, she is the manager of product. And we always work around a year and a year and a half in advance, right? So we're always way in advance because production timelines take so long, right? And the way it really starts is usually comes from me. I give all feedback and input, and I'm very much involved in that. She kind of takes the idea and really gets it going, but it starts from me. And I'll have an idea like, hey, you put swingless cleaner on all our shirts, right? And then she'll go and samples and which fabric of the chamois. Like it gets very detailed. Like, yeah, you want to add a swingless cleaner, okay, but like how big is it going to be? And was the fabric going to be of the swingless cleaner? You have to test multiple ones to see which one cleans your sunglasses the fastest and which one doesn't stay wet and dries quicker, right? All that stuff, right? And you get the first samples, you have to try it. I have a couple of captains that I send stuff to as samples always, and I get their feedback on it, and then we adjust and go from there. But it's usually like that. So it's about a year and a half in advance. And it takes a lot of time. You can't really pivot easily because it's a lot of commitment. Like when you do have an idea, you have to commit because you have to have minimums with fabrics and whatnot, right? So once you do kind of have a vision for something, you have to strike, and you have to strike with conviction, right? Because we can't just do, 50 polo shirts. You got to do 400, 500, right? So you have to have conviction, you have to commit. That's really how it is. And as far as fabrics, how that goes, I mean, I have a few sayings. It's like light is right. Like the lighter you go, the better. That is always. because the end vision for us is we really want to be known as the brand to go to for lightweight fabrics. In 40 years, I would, if you really take it all the way, I think I can definitely see us just selling fabric and just being like how you buy Gore-Tex, you buy Billfish fabrics. So you can have like, I don't know, some brand buying Billfish fabrics and putting their logos on it and not have our thing on it besides, our hang tag because the fabric is trademarked by a Billfish fabric. So that's really where we really want to take it.
It's great because you're starting at the base, right? As putting that emphasis on one of the most important things, because if it doesn't feel right, like then it's not going to be an enjoyable experience. You're not going to have the product that you do and the love for it.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
Focusing on that fabric is awesome.
Yeah, fabric is key.
We talked about your Instagram starting as a media company and then being able to share a lot of what you guys do design wise and stuff. Like for someone maybe that's starting out or wants to do something in the product space, like how has that played out for you guys as far as like defining or contributing to your success over the years? And then what advice would you give for somebody that's just starting out in the industry wanting to offer a product?
I'd probably say don't do it. And the reason why you shouldn't do it is to keep in mind, a lot of Billfish's growth was never thought out. It was just sort of, we're having fun and we're just taking punches one at a time and we're iterating to where we are today. It was not thought out. But if I do it again with what I know now, meaning actually think it out and know what's coming, and I would by no means do it. And the reason why is because it's very capital intensive. So you have to forecast inventory, you have to manage different sizes, you have to basically expect, okay, a year from now, what's going to sell? Is it going to sell well? Is it not going to sell well? I mean, what's too much inventory? What if you have a product defect? If you're working, they call it the world of atoms, any hardware thing, it's very difficult because you have to make it from scratch, ship it, import duties, shipping charges. It's just very hard. And you have to build a brand, right? Because think about it. When you really think about it, like the only thing that separates Billfish from the rest is the brand. Because say you start a company and I tell, hey, Steven, you know what? At Goodwill, here's my factory. Here are the fabrics. Here's my sizing. Good luck. There's no difference between you and me, but the brand, right? There's the only difference. So the only really competitive, what they call a moat, the defensible part of your business, is the brand. Right? Now, you can say there's IP, there's advantages of just having your own printing machines that come with scale, but you got to get there first. Right now, we have a design team. Our advantage, we're way faster than anyone else. We make our stuff way faster, like the custom gear, the custom is way faster than anyone else. The prints last way longer. Yes, all great, but we have big money in machinery and inventory and design team and staff and payroll. Now you got to get that place first, right? Now, thankfully, some way, somehow, we were able to basically cross what I call no man's land and get to that point where you can afford to have a team and payroll and all these, infrastructure, right? But if you're starting, I mean, the odds of getting to where we are is just so low. So I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do a product business at all, to be honest with you. I would do something else. I would do either a service business, which with what you do, you don't have to deal with inventory. I'm sure you have your other, hurdles, but it is perhaps less scalable, but there's less risk. Again, with us, you can go belly up so quickly. All you need is one bad shipment. It's a lot of risk, right? And a lot of money involved. And again, furthermore, we did it with no money. We didn't have parents' money or bank loans or anything like that up until like a year and a half ago, right? So how do you invest inventory? Like we did it because we took a long time. We literally reinvested every dollar for a long, long, long time, right? But a lot of people die in what I call no man's land. So that's why I call that, right? So you got to survive it. Now we survived it, right? But Jesus, you heard my story. I went through 3 spare bedrooms and, all sorts of crazy stuff. It's almost like a miracle that we did, right? But so much could have gone wrong.
Save yourself
The hassle. Half the battle sometimes is making the right decisions early on. And I mean, I didn't make the best decisions, but it worked out, right?
Yeah. Well, think about looking back at your journey, like 10,000 foot view of where you started and where you are now. Whether this is defined as success to you, I think from my perspective it is, but depends on what you do. Like, I guess what's a key lesson you think that maybe shaped what you do, like an experience or something that you've had that looking back now, you're like, that really kind of helped us get to where we are today, or helped me understand myself or the business a bit more to allow us to be here right now?
I would say always be learning. I am a podcast freak, so I listen to around 3, 4 podcasts a day, and these are just business podcasts. So I am always consuming information every day, 7 days. That has been that way since the beginning. A lot of that, a lot of humility, a lot of knowing what you're not good at. For example, I mean, I didn't study economics. I don't have a business degree. So I didn't know what a P&L was. I couldn't read a balance sheet for life of me, right? So I had to learn those things, right? I used to get a P&L and I would think that's wrong because my bank account was fine. But it was fine because we sold out inventory. We didn't buy more, and therefore the bank account was like, I didn't understand these things, right? So I learned these things by always being learning, right? I think that's always be learning is an important trait. I think that it's a lot of humility, a lot of empathy. Like even now, like a key to having a good team is understanding your team members. Everyone's doing their best. I have this saying on my team all the time. Like when I have like different departments that argue with each other, like you don't know how hard it is until you're the one doing the thing. So let's start there. Let's calm down and be very empathetic that the person doing the thing that you need to be done is a lot harder than you think it is, right? So it's a lot of that is how we were able to do it. And like I said, just humility, just be very thankful for people to help you along the way. Because a lot of people help me along the way, still do, and treating people well. And I would say a combination between all those things, it's never one thing, it's a combination of a lot of those things, is the secret. I would say one other thing that helped us a lot, and I will say is that's with every business person, you have to have a competitive edge. So with us, looking back, our competitive edge truly was the fact that I was very good at media. So I could make things look a lot more professional than they were. So that helped us get out of, like I'm talking about it right now, is no man's land. So basically, how do you bridge from zero to being a payroll company and LLC and all that, right? You got to have a competitive edge. And for me, that was a background in fishing. So I could talk about Bimini knots and Boswellia's fishery and what fishing in the DR is like. So I had a lot of background. That was an unfair advantage that I had over called the next random person starting a fishing apparel company. I had media skills. I had access because I was part of the community. I could go, I had friends who had boats I could ride along with and take photos on their boats and all that. And you need that, right? Like if you go and start a brand, you have 1 million followers, you're a celebrity. Yeah, that's a big competitive advantage. If you want to start a media company and you made 300 videos when you were 14, major competitive advantage. So stuff like that, you have to really look at yourself and think, okay, what am I good at? What am I uniquely good at? And what am I much better at than other people in my surroundings? And I'm pressing that advantage. Even now, like I would definitely say, finance isn't our strongest advantage. It's content. Like I'll live and die. Like we have a podcast. I don't see Pelagic having a podcast. You know what I mean? They don't have that because that's an advantage and we press on it. But we don't have a store. They have a store, right? Because they've been a long time. So I always choose to kind of, what am I good at, or what can I be the best in the world at, and really press on that advantage. There's this famous graphic. It's a heuristic. It's called the Ikigai. It's a Japanese thing. And it's basically, what are you passionate about? What am I uniquely good at? And what can I be the best? That's one of the best in the world, I think. Best in the world at it. And in the combination of those three, that's where you want to go. And that's kind of how I see it. And for me, it's what I'm uniquely good. What can I be the best in the world at is branding, marketing, that whole space.
I think it's a gift for people that find that in their life. I know like what I'm doing, I found that and I absolutely love it because it changes what work means to you. And it changes, I think, your satisfaction and what you do every day and why you get up. It's a really special thing. Wrapping up, I've got some rapid fire questions for you, Leo. Are you ready?
Yeah, of course. Bring it on.
What's your favorite fish to catch and why?
Has to be a blue marlin. Why? Because they stay on top and the boat gets to back down really hard. And there's this sensation that you get when the boat's going down. Fishermen will know. Like if you're someone who does a lot of blue marlin fishing, you'll know like a lot of fish will either go down deep and you have to bring it up, or they'll start on top and then go down. But there's this rare moment that happens usually when you're fishing light tackle, where you're fighting a fish and it decides to just stay on top and doesn't go down, it just keeps going for the horizon. And then the captain can just slam in reverse and stay behind it. And it usually lasts around 5 to 10 minutes, not longer. But that moment is the best moment, right? When the boat's going full speed backwards and you're reeling as fast as you can. That to me is the best. And you won't get that with a white marlin or a sailfish. The blue marlin is what that's known to do that. So yeah, that.
That's awesome. Gets the blood pumping. What's your favorite piece of gear in the Billfish lineup and why?
Billfish Pro, sunglass cleaner. Nobody else has it. And it's cool because I invented it. It was a kind of risky move and people love it.
Put your mark on it. I love it. What's a species you've always wanted to fish for but haven't yet?
Black marlin.
Well, you know where they are.
Yeah, I know. I got to come visit.
What's one luxury item you splurge on outside of fishing?
$900 pair of boots.
That's right. What's your go-to boat food for a full day out?
I've changed my thoughts on this. I used to be the type of person that would never eat on a boat, right? But I've completely pivoted and I eat great on the boat. So probably something like a steak or like a cheeseburger or like something heavy, not a sandwich. Not
Yeah.
a sandwich. I've completely pivoted on that. I like to eat great on the boat. So what I would do is either the night before I would do like I used to do Kentucky, but now I would really invest and honestly that's what invest in a really great meal.
Oh, you're bringing a steak out on a boat. Yeah, that is 180 degrees pivot. I love
Microwave
that.
it or something. Yeah, no, I would. Like
That's
I would
awesome.
get steak the night before to go, put it in like a little foam thing, and then heat it up in a microwave. And because when you think about it, if you have a yellowfin tuna, you got to go 2 hours with it or something. You better be fed because if not, you're gonna be dead tired. You know.
Yeah, get that protein up. What's the biggest fish you've ever caught?
Depends per species, obviously, but I mean, just in weight, I would say 400-pound blue marlin, I think. But I recently caught a 200-pound yellowfin tuna out of Venice, and that was pretty cool.
That's a heavy fight. That's a hard one.
I've caught a lot of billfish in my life, and you'll have one that's 200, 350, 400, right? Like it kind of varies, and you don't really weigh it, so you kind of have a memory of it. But this one, we weighed and it was a true giant. So that one for sure, that's where my mind goes to immediately. But yes, in terms of weight, 400-pound blue marlin.
What's the best fishing advice you've ever received?
There is no one piece of advice. So fishing is different than any other sport because you really have to earn it to get good at it. Because you can't just read a theory book and go do it. You can't just have a piece of advice that says, hey, put your thumb a little bit harder on this. No, everything is completely subjective because you're dealing with an animal, right? Like a white marlin eats completely different than a sailfish does and completely different than a blue marlin does. And I can tell you right now, I can go black marlin fishing with you guys and I'll be a complete novice noob because it's completely different again, right? Like every place is different, right? Like I'll go kite fishing in South Florida, which I never do. And I'm like, what is this thing, right? And you're just a rookie, and you can be the man in black marlin fishing, for example, right? And you can take them and put them in the kite fishing. They'll be like, what is this?
Yeah,
Right.
no
So
idea.
there is no one tip. There is no one way to do it. Maybe I would say learn how to hold a rod properly, and ask a captain. They'll tell you that really helps a lot. But honestly, man, everything is so different. And no matter what, even if the captain tells you how to hold it, guess what? You're still going to mess it up. It's just a matter of putting in the time, right? I think if you want to judge someone on how good they fish, ask them many years because it really truly is time correlated. Because not even years, it trips honestly in the water, right? Because there is no shortcuts. It's truly a labor of having to put time in it. Ask any fisherman, captain, or mate. It's always the guys who've done it the most that have done it best. And there's just no shortcuts. There's no tips. That's honestly the key. There are no tips. You just have to go out there and mess it up and try again and get yelled at and listen and to all the small tips and keep going. And after long days and many, many years, for me it was years because I don't fish as much as a mate, for example. But after a lot of years, you get good at it.
What's one thing people don't know about you? Most people.
I have a law degree. I studied to become a corporate lawyer, and I ended up not doing that and going into the business world instead. So I have a full-on master's degree, did the whole university trial, did not do the whole college dropout thing. I did the whole university cycle. So yeah, that's
Wow.
something people don't know about me. Yeah. Yeah. You
That's
wouldn't think it.
It got me with that one. That was awesome. If you weren't running Billfish gear, what would you be doing?
I'll probably be a corporate lawyer because I studied that, and I think there's a lot of beauty in defending someone in times of need. I myself, through my business journey, have had many times where I've been hopeless or kind of in a corner, and people have helped me, and I'll never forget it, either a legal thing or a argument or fight, and I would want to do that for others. I would like to be a lawyer. I probably still will in my lifetime. I always tell my girlfriend, like, hey, one day I want to become a lawyer for that reason. And you go to the United States and you see like people like, yeah, injury lawyer, call me if you got an accident. Not that type, you know what I mean? But more so, I would like to help people who are in need. And I'm not even talking about like, criminal lawyers or helping the less fortunate, but just anyone. Like, I don't think it's anyone likes to be in a situation where they get sued or they have an argument with a business partner or whatever. Just to be able to have that background and provide assistance would be great. I would do that.
You'd be wearing some fantastic clothes in court. I know that for
Oh,
sure.
you can only imagine the law firm will be black and matte black with a beautiful font, and everything will be black and white. It'll probably be no different than the Billfish is right now. Website
No.
similar, yeah.
Oh, Leo, it's been really awesome having you on today. How do you want to leave us? I mean, that was pretty good, but any words of wisdom or last thoughts? And also tell them about the special if someone does want to get some Billfish gear.
15% off on everything if you use the code 30 knot cruise. I like to live life at 30 knots. So
15% off, right? You said?
yeah, and as far as, I don't know, words of wisdom or departure, I would just like to thank everyone, honestly. I mean, we've had, like I said, you've heard the story. It's pretty crazy. I've gotten a lot of help from a lot of good people, and I probably want to say, help others as well. Like if anyone needs any help from me or whatever, DM me, email me. I'll give you everything you want to know. But also to the listeners, like help other people. Like if someone reaches out to you for help or whatever, help them.
Definitely shout out to all the people that love and help us, and life wouldn't be the same, I think, without that support. So
it's true. The camaraderie within this industry is second to none. I keep being amazed, even to date. I've had enough blessings. I'm good. If I don't get any more, I'm fine.
and now you can start helping other people. Yeah.
Completely true. I've done that every step of the way. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, they can please reach out to me. Like I said, like I almost feel like it's my purpose and it's my obligation to do that because I've been very fortunate. So
that's awesome, Leo. Thank you for that, buddy. That wraps up this episode. If you guys enjoyed the episode, I know it was an awesome one. Definitely subscribe it and share it with someone who'd love to hear it. And definitely head to Billfish Gear and get some gear of your own. You definitely won't be disappointed. Yeah, thanks again, Leo. And we'll catch you all on the next episode of the Rising Tidecast.